Hello, and welcome to this video of Harry Potter fan theories. So, I figured if this video we could start from the very beginning. Which, as we all know, Harry Potter, who was an 11-year-old wizard, he went to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry for 7 years, from 11 to 17. Yeah. Well, as we all know, he skipped out his 7th year. He had to redo it later on, but he skipped his 7th year, so it was 6 consecutive years plus 1 extra year. But we're not going to get into that in this video. Anyways. And, as we all know, Harry Potter, born the boy who lived, was born a great wizard, and he grew up to be an even greater wizard. Going from, just the boy who lived, the boy who beat Voldemort once, to the boy who beat Voldemort twice more, plus killing a basilisk, outrunning a spider. He opened the Chamber of Secrets, destroyed 7 Horcruxes, and cheated death along the way. He stopped a crowd of Dementors from sucking his godfather's soul out, while believing that his godfather was the person who murdered his parents, or sent Voldemort to murder his parents, and had, in a way, murdered a bunch of muggles, escaped from Azkaban, the wizard prison, broke into Hogwarts, which is supposed to be the safest place on Earth, had sneaked into the boys' dormitory in order to try to kill Harry Potter, and whoop-de-doo, had faced a werewolf along the way. And that was all in his 3rd year, guys, so you know he's great after that. Anyways, he won the Triwizard Tournament facing a dragon along the way, which, if that doesn't give you street cred, I don't know what does. He watched the Dark Lord return, all in that same year. He then opened up a secret organization to fight against the Dark Lord and his minions, basically. And whoop-de-doo, broke into the Ministry of Magic, found a great prophecy that basically told him that his life is screwed, that it's either going to be him who dies or Voldemort who dies, and it has to be at the hand of the other, so, yeah. And he's also been taken over by Voldemort, too, in that same year, and he's being trash-talked by Rita Skeeter, who, by the way, is not a very good news writer, because all she writes is trash talk about people, and if that gets you famous, then I don't know what does. Like, I don't know what keeps you famous or what. And yeah, then he also watches Dumbledore, his mentor, and one of the greatest wizards he knows, and the only person Voldemort was scared of, get killed by Voldemort, by one of Voldemort's minions. And that's when he learns about the Horcruxes. And then he also has to go through the whole fact that everyone is messed up by Sirius's death, which drives everyone crazy, in a way. And then he is forced to basically go through hell, and he spends the final book, the 7th book, so he spends 17 through 18 going around cheating death, breaking into Ministry of Magic once again, destroying Horcruxes, losing friends, getting friends back, and learning the horrible truth about himself having to die because he is a Horcrux. Oh yeah, forgot about that one, didn't you? Anyways, and so, as we all know, by the end of the book, he ends up having 3 kids, Albus Severus Potter, James Potter. I think it's James Sirius Potter, and then, gosh, and then there's Lily Potter. Yeah. But yeah, and that's all in that's all in the first one. Like, that's all in the 7 books, so yeah. And then there's the Cursed Child, but we're not going to go into that one yet, because I have quite a few theories for that one. And I'm not going to get into it until after I get done with all the Harry Potter theories I have for the actual Harry Potter series. And now it's time to get into the actual video. So, this video is gonna be about the 4 Hogwarts founders. And we're gonna wrap around the Locket of Slytherin for a little bit, because, truth be told, I think that is one of the greatest wizarding weapons, one of the greatest wizarding possessions that's out there. Mainly because of the power that Voldemort put into it. Makes you wonder, what would you see when you opened it, or when it opened? But anyways, as we all know, the 4 founders are Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Now, as we all know, they all had different visions they were all born in the 9th to 10th century. But yeah, we all know that they had different visions for the school. Hufflepuff wanted the school to be for the kind-hearted, those who understood everybody, and she believed that anyone could be accepted into the school. Gryffindor wanted the brave at heart. He wanted those he knew could be great, true heroes. And Ravenclaw wanted the wisest to be in the school. Ravenclaw wanted only those she knew would be able to understand the greatest puzzles of the world. And then you have Slytherin, which, in my opinion, I have ups and downs about Slytherin. I mean, everybody is like him at this point. I mean, it's rude that he didn't want Muggleborns in the school, because if I agree with Godric, Rowena, and Helga that all should be accepted into the school, mainly because if Hogwarts really did exist, then I, being a Muggle, I'd rather go to Hogwarts. Anyways, but yeah, as we're getting into it, Salazar wanted Hogwarts to be a school for purebloods, and as we all know, Slytherin is for the arrogant, as J.K. Rowling put it. Anyways, Slytherin, he didn't agree that they should let purebloods into the school. He thought it would be inconvenient and plain out preposterous. But everybody else told them that it should be a school for everybody, that everybody should have a chance to be taught magic. And so, Slytherin threatened to go his separate ways, and when they still didn't let loose, he'd terminated his role from Hogwarts, planted a chamber in a secret room, and placed a monster or a beast, whatever you want to call it, inside of the room, and he got to school. Now also, I don't believe sources say exactly when Gryffindor did this, but Gryffindor had put his sword into the sorting hat, which is basically Gryffindor's hat that he took off his head, and the 4 founders all put a part of themselves into the hat, basically, so that whenever they died, there would always be a piece of themselves that would be able to sort people into the houses. Anyway, so Gryffindor put his sword, the sword of Gryffindor is commonly named, a sword that was made by, I think, Ragnarok, the Goblin King. And basically, he became the Goblin King because he made one of the greatest weapons, or he was a great blacksmith, basically. But he put his sword in the Sorting Cap, and as we find out later on in the Harry Potter series, as we find out in the second book, the sword comes in very much useful. It helps kill the basilisk that is in the Chamber of Secrets. Anyway, so Slytherin puts the beast in the chamber and leaves the school. And only the heir of Slytherin would be able to open the chamber and unleash the beast inside, killing all the Muggleborns. Or, as it's said in the Harry Potter series, is a very bad word to use for Muggleborns, mudbloods. And as we all know, that heir turned out to be Tom Marvolo Riddle, or Lord Voldemort himself. But yeah, that will come up in a different... I have a whole video for Voldemort that I want to do. Like, everybody probably does, because as the antagonist of the book, he is also one of the greatest people in the book. Except for Harry himself. Okay. So, as most Potterheads know, the movies only go over the prized possessions and the Chamber of Secrets, which it had to go over that because the second book is named after it. I mean, they go over a little bit more stuff about the 4 founders, but the basic things is the 4 prized possessions. And I'm just going to name them right now so that everybody who doesn't know what they are knows what they are. There's Godric Gryffindor's sword. There's Helga Hufflepuff's cup. There's the Locket of Slytherin. And there's also the Diadem of Ravenclaw. And now those four things are the 4 founding sets of Hogwarts. The 4 founding sets of Hogwarts. That's what, when everybody thinks about the school, they think about the founders. But when they think of objects, they think of those objects, because those were objects that, well, at least the 2 of them, the Sword of Gryffindor, was enchanted to take in all things that, like, if it got hit with a curse or a jinx, it would take in that jinx and it would only make it stronger. Like it did in the second book, it took in the basilisk venom, making it stronger, and helping destroy the whole cruxes along the way, except for the cup, because we know that. The cup and the diadem, because we know those 2. I guess. Okay, I'll make a whole new video about that. My next video will be whole cruxes that were destroyed by the sword, and whole cruxes that were destroyed otherwise. Yeah, anyways. But yeah. And then, yeah, as we know, the 4 prized possessions come up because as we all know, the 4 objects were Horcruxes, except for the sword, because the sword was what destroyed most Horcruxes and came up in the second movie, in the second book. And in the chamber, as I said, the Chamber of Secrets, the chamber is basically the name of the second book. But what I will be taking you through throughout this channel is I will be taking you through the books. I'll add the movies in, but I'll be mostly doing the books. just because you can't have Harry Potter with only the movies, because you can't have Harry Potter without the books. It's just not possible, not plausible. Okay. And now, a final thought before we get into the actual video. I mean, it'd be awesome to go to Hogwarts. I mean, with myself, I always dreamed about it. As soon as I turned 11, I always dreamed about getting that letter to Hogwarts, sitting on the Hogwarts Express. I mean, learning history of magic. Because if you think about it, if we went to Hogwarts and we learned history of magic, we would just be learning every single thing that J.K. Rowling put into the history of the Wizarding world. I mean, we not only get Professor Binns telling us about Grindelwald, the battle between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, that whole Muggle thing that was going on. We not only get the First Wizarding War, and think about it, if we go now, we'd also be getting the Second Wizarding War that Harry Potter went through. So yeah, we'd be getting all that, and then plus, we'd be getting the creation of Hogwarts, so we know from J.K. Rowling's view, because she's given us a lot to go off of with that. But still, if we had history of magic, it'd be J.K. Rowling's view about how it started, and going through that, it'd be the truth about how it started, so that'd be awesome. And then we'd be getting the whole wizarding thing. Like, we'd be getting, like, I know it's a myth, like, I guess it's part myth because of the whole death giving items to them. But, like, we'd be getting the tale of the three brothers and everything like that. I mean, wouldn't that just be awesome? But anyways, guys, now it's time to get excited. We're getting into the topic for today. The topic for this video is the 4 founders. So Alice a Slytherin, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Godric Gryffindor. And with this, I want to break down the walls of this universe. So to start out, just let me tell you, I wasn't planning to do this till later on, but I was just thinking about the whole Founders of Hogwarts stuff. And I was also thinking about another book series, Percy Jackson and Olympians, and I wanted to compare, and at first I wanted to make a video comparing Harry, Ron, and Hermione to Annabeth, Percy, and Grover, but I changed my mind at the last second. But this video is going to go around Greek mythology somewhat. Anyway, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about is where magic came from. Now, in this theory, the theory basically is that the 4 founders are actually Athena, Zeus, Ares, and Hera. Now, you'll get some of this right away, just like, yeah, we'll get into that. But where magic came from. So, my question is, how did magic come? Was it always here was it always in the world, or did it just suddenly appear? And if it was always there, then you can't have something always be there. You always have to have something come before it. So, if you think about it from that perspective, then magic could have been there before, so who or what brought it? And that's what got me thinking. And basically, if magic had been there before, then somebody brought it in. And that made me think about the whole, there's the Greek gods and goddesses, there's the Greek Olympians, there's the 12 Olympians, and they have powers. They could transform, transfiguration, they could change from one object to another, or they could change other objects from another. Transfiguration, animagus. They could make potions. They could make potions if they wanted to. That's the thing. They drink weird stuff that us humans don't drink. Another sign. And heck, there's Hecate, the goddess of actual magic. So if you think of it from that view, then magic came from the gods. And that brings the Greek gods into this whole thing of everything. So magic comes from the gods. Anyways. And so magic came from the gods, and if we take that perspective, then it leads us to, okay, so comes from the gods, so what next? And what's next? Let's think about the perspectives of the four founders. Let's think of their vision of the school. Gryffindor wanted the brave and the heroes. Now, I thought about that, and it could have either been Zeus or Poseidon, who could have been Gryffindor, or who could be Gryffindor. But then I looked up, like, the main thing for Gryffindors in the Sorting Hat song in the first book. It actually states, here, 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So, in the Gryffindor song, let me take you to it. Okay, I'm just gonna read you the full song. While you may not think I'm pretty, but don't judge on what you see. I'll eat myself if you can find a smarter hat than me. You can keep your bowler's brack, your top hats sleek and tall, for I'm the Hogwarts sorting hat, and I could cap them all. There's nothing hidden in your head the sorting hat can't see. So try me on, and I will tell you where you might ought to be. You might be wrong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring nerve and chivalry set Gryffindors apart. You might be wrong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. Or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you're a ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. So put me on, don't be afraid, and don't get in a flap. You're in safe hands, though I have none, for I'm a thinking cap. Okay, so now let's go back to Gryffindor, because I was comparing him, like I said, to either Zeus or Poseidon. Now I thought about Poseidon, but as it says in this song, you might be wrong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. And I remembered that Zeus was known for his bravery, and all of Zeus's children were brave and strong. Let's just put it that way. Let's think about Hercules. And then the next person I thought about was Ravenclaw. Now, Ravenclaw, well, as we know, Ravenclaw is for the wise. So, what goddess is wise? Well, Athena, of course. And so, I was pretty straight on Athena. And then, I had another theory to this whole theory that I'm talking about right now. And I'm just gonna say a sentence because I'm gonna make a video about this too. Anyways, so the sentence is basically Athena stole the diadem from Hera, and so that basically puts two goddesses in the same position. People think of it as Ravenclaw's diadem, but the theory is Athena is Ravenclaw, and so if she stole the diadem from Hera, because Hera's the queen god, and also the goddess of marriage and everything, so that will basically put those two together, just because. Oh yeah, by the way, Athena stole the diadem. Anyways, but yeah, and how I got that is, or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you're a ready mind, where those of wits and learning will always find their kind. And what's Athena known for? Wisdom. She's the goddess of wisdom. It's right there in her name. So, yeah, that one's pretty obvious. And then we have Hufflepuff. And, well, I was thinking about this, and I mean, the only goddess that came to mind for me was Hestia. And if you don't know Hestia, Hestia is the goddess of the hearth. She's on Mount Olympus. She gave up her throne for Dionysus. And yeah, so yeah, she's basically still on Olympus, but she's the goddess of home. And she's the goddess of the fire, basically. She isn't really the goddess of the fire, but she's by the fire always, so people just gave her that name. And what made me think of that is this line in the Sorting Hat song. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unemployed of toil. Or, sorry guys, I'm going to say that from the beginning. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unemployed of toil. So yeah. Hestia is loyal to Olympus and her siblings, no matter what. And Hufflepuff is loyal to her siblings, or loyal to the other founders too. I shouldn't really say siblings. And then the final one, Slytherin, for me was the hardest, because all of the gods have that arrogance, but truth be told, what god has the worst problem with arrogance? Let me give you a minute. Okay, it's the god of war, Ares. And just let me read you this before I tell you why. Or perhaps in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folks use any means to achieve their ends. And that's basically saying that, if you think about it, Ares, the god of war, he goes to anything to win a war. Just like Ares goes, just like Slytherin goes through anything to get his way. I mean, he left the beast in a hidden room in the castle to kill all Muggleborns, so what kind of person does that make you think he is? Yeah. He'll go through anything to get to his means. And so yeah, that's what I think. I think Athena is Ravenclaw. Zeus is Gryffindor. Hera is Hestia is Hufflepuff, and Ares is Slytherin. But yeah. And now, the prize possessions. Now, yeah, so let's start with Gryffindor, because everybody seems to start with Gryffindor. Gryffindor's prize possession was the sword that the goblins made. And, I mean, yeah, kind of interesting because it was one of the first things, and Zeus and comparing, the theory is, like I said, the theory is that those four gods, Hestia, Ares, Zeus, and Athena, they're all the four founders of Hogwarts. And if you think about it, Zeus's lightning bolt was the first thing to be made by the Cyclops, and yeah, so yeah, and then yeah, and I kind of saw it as Ares for a second just because of the sword, but the symbolism behind it too is you have to be brave to use a sword, and no matter how strange Zeus is, he is brave. So I stand by Zeus being Gryffindor. And then there's the cup of Hufflepuff. And I guess if you don't really know what the symbolism of the cup is basically meaning, like, you give one of your best cups to your guest, and your second best to the owner of the house. So yeah, the cup basically means home. So it fits with Hestia being Hufflepuff. And then there's the Locket of Slytherin, and this is the hardest to put for Aries, just because Aries is, I don't know, I don't really see how the Locket could go with Aries, but I was looking it over a few times just to see, and basically what I found out is it doesn't really, it's not really the symbolism of the outside, but the symbolism of the inside, and showing your worst fears or what makes you angriest. That's what really shows the symbolism to Aries, because Aries feeds off your anger feeds off your emotions in order to get you to fight. And that's basically what the Locket was. Done. And yes, I know that Slytherin had actually made a Locket to do that. That was all Voldemort. But we're just going off the Locket at this point, because why would Aries have a Locket? I don't know. It's just better to go by that. And then the diadem. Now, as I said, the sentence, and I don't really want to go into the diadem, so I'm going to skip over the diadem. But the sentence that I gave is, Athena stole it from Hera. So yeah. Then Hogwarts. Now, Hogwarts, first off, is a castle, and Mount Olympus is a temple, which is basically like a temple is for the gods, a castle is for royalty and all of that. But yeah, so like, yeah, they both live in big places, is what I'm trying to say. And Hogwarts is run by 4 founders. The Olympians is run by 3, I guess, but like, we know Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, but then there's Hera, so 4. So yeah, those two go well together. You know, all of that. And yeah. But yeah, so yeah, like, then Hogwarts, only wizards can go to Hogwarts, no muggles. And then only demigods could go to Mount Olympus, no mortals. And they both start with them, muggles, mortals. But yeah, guys, the main thing for this theory is, I'm just gonna say it one more time. The 4 Olympian gods I gave, Athena, Zeus, Hestia, and Ares, those are the 4 founders of Hogwarts. If you like this video, subscribe down below, and if you like the video, smash the like button for me. And I will see you next time for another video. Thank you. Goodbye.